Hey, welcome to today's episode of Broadband Deployment News. There's some larger operators that are going to be jumping on this broadband infrastructure money. I'm going to talk about that today with a couple of quick stories. Be right back. Thanks for joining me. I'm Rick Uzzi here with Zcorum. So we've been talking about the broadband infrastructure bill that's come out, the Biden infrastructure bill, and a lot of those dollars are going to be focused, well, a lot of those dollars are going to be going to the states primarily, and they're going to determine where that goes. And we think about that going to municipalities, electric membership co-ops, local service providers, but larger providers are definitely prepared to jump in there and maybe looking to poach some territories that they are not normally in. So I wanted to share just a few quick stories today about that, just to make sure that you're aware. And here's a story right here about AT&T. So it says AT&T chases strategic fiber opportunities outside its footprint. So that's something to be aware of. If you are a service provider in a local area and you've got unserved or underserved areas, then you need to be aware that there may be some larger providers that may want to come in there and use federal funds to serve those areas. So you should get on the ball if you have those kinds of areas. I'll talk about what those are in a minute. So AT&T CEO John Stankey said the operator is keeping an open mind as it works to double its fiber coverage to a total of 30 million locations by 2025. Weighing strategic opportunities to deploy outside its traditional footprint. So again, they are looking at not just areas where they're serving now, but if they see an area that looks promising and they can get federal funds for that, they are going to look at going after that. Stankey expressed regret that AT&T didn't pursue fiber more aggressively over the last decade or so. I would have liked to have been, or maybe even further along than 15 million fiber homes, which is a good number of homes, but he would have liked to have been further along than that. Stankey noted its fiber deployment pace is quickly accelerating. As part of its plan, Stankey said AT&T will strategically chase non-traditional deployments. He said, where there are opportunities for us to go and build fiber, that helps both our wireless network and allows us to gain access to traffic from the business community and from consumers. And that may well be an MDU in the middle of New York that wasn't part of our attractive franchise territory from the past. So in other words, if something didn't look attractive in the past due to just the cost that it would be to provide that, then they're looking at maybe addressing those things. The CEO also talked up the potential for AT&T to capitalize on broadband deployment projects fueled by the recently passed U.S. infrastructure bill, which allocated $42.45 billion to help states fund such work. He noted state governments will need reputable scale partners to work with, which are both capable of making multi-year commitments to projects and can offer the right plans necessary to connect unserved consumers. I think we're going to be in a very unique position to help states do that, he said. We're a scaled business. We know how to do these things. We've run large civil projects, probably more so than any other company in the telecommunications space. I think this is part of our DNA. And as we get our flywheel going around these things, we can be better at that than anybody else. So that is kind of a warning. If you've got AT&T in an adjacent area and you have unserved or underserved locations, just be aware that they're going to be looking at that. They don't even need to be in an adjacent area, I guess, because they've got mobile service all over the country. And as he said, as they put fiber in other locations, that will help their mobile business as well as provide these opportunities for providing broadband in some unserved and underserved areas. So, and what are those unserved and underserved? Well, unserved in the bill would be any area that or customers that are not getting at least 20 megabits per second 25 megabits by 3. So 25 megabits down, 3 megabits per second up. And then if you're going to do a project with those types of customers, then you have to have at least 80% of that area that is considered unserved. And then there's also underserved, which would be dollars that will be allocated after the unserved, and that would be areas where there's not at least 100 down by 20 megabits up. And the 25 by 3, that's the FCC's current definition of broadband, so if anybody's under that, they're considered unserved. That's why that figure is in there. And then the 100 by 20, that's kind of the next level up that they're wanting to provide to people. They feel like even 25 by 3 is underserved. So on the underserved projects, it's the same kind of numbers as far as 80% need to be in that realm, but that includes both unserved and underserved. So if you've got 80% of the customers that are both or either unserved or underserved in an area, then you can do an underserved project. So AT&T, as they're expanding out, may be looking at those kinds of areas. So again, if you have the opportunity to get federal funds to provide services in an area, you might be already an existing service provider, you could be a municipality, you could be an electric membership co-op, then you have the opportunity to get those dollars locally. But AT&T and others may be competing for that, so you just need to be aware. And then I also saw the story here, actually need to go over this way, with Frontier. So they're preparing to pounce on broadband funding from infrastructure bill. Now they're in a different situation from AT&T. AT&T's they've had fiber out there, they've had much more fiber out there, so they've not really been losing customers based on their broadband offering. However, Frontier has. They've been going through a rough couple of years because they were sitting on lots of DSL plant and not really doing anything to upgrade that. They had some financial difficulty that they've come through now. And so they're gearing up, to capitalize on broadband funding opportunities created by the recent passage of a sprawling U.S. infrastructure bill, with CFO Scott Beasley pointing out the federal dollars as a key part of its fiber expansion plan. So they're looking at using that as well. It's a little different, though, their strategy, or at least in the early going. Though it's expected to take several months before the states receive funding, Frontier CFO Scott Beasley said during an investor conference the company is already organizing to really benefit from it. We think an important part of our strategy to be able to win the funding for projects that likely wouldn't get funded elsewhere, whether they're very high cost, rural, less dense areas, and we're excited within our footprint, that's the difference there, to partner with governments to build out Gigabit America to as much of the country as possible. So right now they're going to be focusing on in their footprint, and really they need to because that's where they've been struggling, right? So they've already got this footprint of internet customers, and a lot of them are not getting good service. They've been losing lots of those customers to cable operators in the area or other competitors. So they're looking at trying to get their footprint up to speed using these funds. So a little less of a competitive threat, but of course, anything is possible as they get their footprint built out as to whether they want to continue that. Because once they get this rolling, they could certainly move in other areas, but maybe by then those areas would be served, those unserved and underserved areas, and areas that are not their footprint might be served by then, we would think. Frontier is aiming to reach a total of 4 million locations by the end of 2021 and grow its footprint to 10 million by the end of 2025. We know it's a significant number. We know there's a huge part of our footprint that doesn't have access to broadband now, and that this program will be critical in helping bridge that digital divide. So when they say their footprint not having access to broadband, I think they're talking about maybe places that do have a large number of customers that are not getting 25 by 3 because it's older DSL technology and it's just not keeping pace with what people need today. So again, just be aware of that you won't be alone if you're looking at those funds, that there are other big operators. Could be cable companies doing this as well. I mean, cable operators could be addressing these markets if they're adjacent. If something like Comcast is adjacent to an unserved or underserved area, they could certainly step in as well. So if you've got territory where you're providing service, or you want to provide a good competitive service, maybe you're not in the business yet, but you want to provide a good competitive service where there's unserved and underserved areas, then just be aware that these large operators can get in there. Cable can do it with DOCSIS 3.1 or 4.0, the 10 gig kind of or 10G kind of thing. Or cable operators are laying fiber all the time now, so they're trying to get fiber deep to do these DOCSIS 3.1 and DOCSIS 4.0 deployments. So they're getting fiber as close as they can to the customer. So if they're talking about a greenfield area where they're not, they're probably going to go fiber to the curb in those, or fiber to the premise in those areas. So just be aware that you could have these larger operators that could get in there. Now, of course, the focus from the Biden infrastructure plan, the outline has always been, we want to make these things competitive, and we really want to focus on those who can provide affordable broadband. So more competitors makes it affordable, but also those who are not really looking to make a profit. So there might be a thumb on the scale for municipalities and electric membership co-ops and others that profit is of less interest because it's their local community and they're wanting to provide the service for customers. But still, you have to be aware that there could be these large competitors coming in. So. All right, well, thanks for joining me today. Give me a thumbs up if this was helpful for you, and subscribe to our channel. Just click the subscribe button, click the little bell so that you're notified on your phone or your browser whenever I'm live, and I'm live pretty much every day for this, plus every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. If you need help kind of navigating all of this broadband stuff, whether that's how do you get in the business, feasibility studies, broadband deployment, we can help with that. If you're already in the business, you need help with services after the fact. We provide provisioning of devices, help desk services, diagnostics, so we can do all of that as well. Kind of a one-stop shop for your broadband needs. Again, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.